Welcome to 17 Strong. Victories don't come by accident. Here's your host, Steve Teixeira.
Thanks, Andy. Welcome to another 17 Strong podcast. I'm your host, Steve Teixeira, along with my beautiful wife, Holly. Hi, babe.
Hey.
So this one is really exciting.
I know. I'm so excited. I can barely handle it.
So you go ahead and do the introductions.
Okay. We have one of our Victory Trip recipients with us today, and her name is Bonnie Rowe. Thank you so much for being here.
Hi. Thank you for having me.
Yay. Yes. So we had Bonnie. It was 2019 that we had you speak. Do you remember?
I believe it was 2019.
Yeah, because then we hit COVID.
And then we hit COVID.
I think so too. I think so. So we have quite a few years under our belt, don't we?
Yeah.
Yeah. I know. I can't believe it. So we had you speak in our Victory Trip Reveal. We also had you speak at our big fundraiser. And I know you're like, I'm not really loving this, but your story is worth being told.
That's right.
So if you don't mind, just kind of dive into a little bit maybe of your cancer journey. And your cancer journey kind of goes over a lot of other things. So just start maybe how everything started.
Yeah. So I think to really put you in the right mindset of where I was at that time, I have to take you back a year before I was diagnosed.
Okay.
So in 2017, I had just entered the psych tech program. It's a really strict program, so you can't miss much time at all. Also, I'm the third of 4 children. Okay. So I have an older brother, an older sister, and a younger sister. My older sister in 2017 had been diagnosed with pulmonary hypertension. So right at the beginning of that school year, I had gotten a call from my mother saying, hey, your sister fell. She's not doing too well. And you might want to come down here just to be with her.
And you're in Atascadero?
I was in Atascadero.
Okay.
She was down in San Bernardino.
Okay.
So when I got that call, I was like, okay, I'm going to go right now. I'm leaving. We're just going to hit the road. Got on the road, about 3 exits down the road. I got the call from my mother that they had started CPR on my sister. And so we were like, we need to hurry. We need to rush down there. And then a few minutes later, got the call that she had passed. And so starting that program right from the beginning, I couldn't miss it. You're only allowed to miss 2 days in the entire program.
Right.
So I had to take my 2 days just to attend her funeral. I came back. That was about 2 weeks into the program. So I had a year left of attending that program without being able to take any time for myself at all. Ugh. So I was going through the program, and the first 2 semesters I was okay. I was passing. I had A's. I was doing good. I started noticing by the 3rd semester, my last semester, I wasn't feeling as well. I was starting to get kind of headaches. My grades were dropping. I was going from an A to a C minus. And everyone was like, this is the easiest semester. Why is it so hard for you? And I'm like, I don't know. I noticed my vision was starting to get a little bad, but I was like, okay, well, I don't have health insurance right now. I can't go to the doctors. So, I was like, okay, I'll get through the program. I'll start working soon at the hospital, and everything will be okay.
Sure.
So I started going, I graduated, but like I said, I was having migraines. I was not feeling well at all, and I couldn't take any time off. I had already used up my 2 days. I couldn't.
My gosh.
Yeah.
2 days of
2 days out of a year. And I'm telling you, I was sitting in class not feeling good. I could barely walk. Vertigo was crazy.
And remind me how old you are at this time.
I was 25 at this time.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to I graduated. I started working there, and I just kept noticing like things kept getting weirder and weirder with me. And working in the state hospital, you don't want to be messing around with anything.
You want to be on your game.
Yeah, exactly. And I started noticing like my arms started getting weak, and I couldn't write as fast as I was writing before. My vision just kept getting worse and worse. I started getting double vision. I remember having a doctor on my unit be like, can you look at my eyes? Like, something's going on with me. I don't know what it is. And they're like, yeah, something's up with your eyes, but I don't know what it is.
Right.
So you finished school at this point. You graduated, and now you're working as a psych tech. Okay.
Yeah, a psych tech trainee. So I'm still in my probation period.
Okay.
Gotcha.
And so I had to wait till May for my health insurance to kick in before I could do anything about it. So I I waited, and finally I started noticing like the hallways were seeming a lot longer with my vision. I couldn't walk up and down the stairs anymore. I was sliding down the stairs on my butt in the hospital, but I didn't want to get fired. So I was like, okay, I got to do what I can do. And I'm like, yeah, this isn't okay.
So was it your depth perception
depth-
that was?
yeah.
So everything.
I
so
was just, my
double
head was
vision,
spinning.
everything.
Yeah, my arm was completely weak. And I was like, okay, you know, my health insurance is about to kick in. I'm going to just go see if it's my vision, what's going on. So I was like, okay, May 1st kicked in. I went that day to go get my vision checked. I walked in there and my eye doctor was like, you have something neurological going on with you. You need to go to the hospital right now. And I was like, okay, like not really taking him too seriously. I'm like, okay, whatever. So I drove myself to Twin Cities. I checked in there. Within 2 days, I was paralyzed. I couldn't walk. I started having seizures. We could not figure out like what was going on. They did an MRI. And my grandmother had passed of ALS, so they were thinking something along the lines of that, like maybe MS or
ALS.
ALS. So when they did the MRI, they just saw spots. They didn't see anything at that time.
Okay.
So they started giving me some steroids, and it was starting to feel a little bit better, but the seizures weren't stopping. And I hadn't seen a neurologist. I was there for a week, and I had not seen a neurologist. And finally, I talked to one of the general doctors that were there, and we're like, should we check out of here and go to somewhere else that is like maybe a teaching hospital, like Stanford, UCLA or
Sure,
something?
bigger, yeah.
Yeah, and he was like, no, I cannot advise you to do that, but shaking his head, yes.
Yes.
Nodding, yeah, right.
Yeah, nodding
Sure.
his head, like,
Sure, sure,
get
sure.
out of here. So that's what
Okay.
we did.
So have they done an MRI, a CAT scan, all this at Twin Cities?
They had just done an MRI.
And it was inconclusive.
It just showed spots. Like maybe I had MS. That's what they were thinking, is that I had MS. And so we're like, okay, maybe it's on the, but I still had not seen a neurologist. There was only, I want to say, like 2 in the county at that time. And so we checked out and we drove up to Stanford. And when we got there, like I said, I was in a wheelchair. I couldn't walk. I checked in there and they did the full body scan. They didn't see anything at the time. They did a lumbar puncture. They did an MRI of my brain again. And they said, yeah, it looks like something going on, like maybe MS or a flare or something. We need to just keep you on steroids. And they started giving me seizure medication at that point. And they're like, okay, you know, you're doing better. So we're going to release you. But what they were thinking is that maybe it was called ADEM, which is called acute demyelinating encephalomyelitis. Hard to say.
That is hard to say.
Big word. Yeah.
Big word.
Yeah.
And so that's what they had diagnosed me with. But that is something more that children get more so than adults. So they were still kind of puzzled by me.
Okay.
And so they released me. I went home. And then a few weeks later, I found out I was pregnant. And we were excited.
Oh,
we
so
were
excited.
through the roof.
Of
Okay,
course.
let's stop right there. Tell us a little bit about your husband, because
Yeah, we
we
love
jumped right
Tony.
into
We
we jumped
love
right into
Tony.
your story,
Yes,
and he
yes.
couldn't be here with
So,
us today.
Yeah, so Tony is my partner. We've been together for going on 11 years this year.
Oh my gosh.
He was amazing. He was there with me through all of it, and he was just as excited. I mean, he was wanting kids
sure.
since we first met. Like he was been wanting kids forever.
Right.
And so so we found out we were pregnant, and we were just like, oh my gosh, like this is great. I'm starting to feel better. And then we're starting to live life again. And 4th of July came around, and we were in Cayucas at the beach. And I remember I had a big, massive seizure, and I couldn't talk. It was coming out gibberish. The seizure wouldn't stop. It lasted for about 30 minutes.
So are they grand mal seizures? Are they in other words, a full body seizure, or do you have is it an isolated with maybe
Yes,
an arm or
it was
something?
all my right side. So it was my right leg,
Okay.
my right arm. But this time it had spread in my brain, so I couldn't talk. It was coming out gibberish or anything I could say. I knew what I wanted to say. I could.
Okay.
Yes,
But you couldn't get it out.
I couldn't get it out.
Okay.
And he rushed me over to Sierra Vista, and same thing. But they were like, well, we can't do an MRI. You're pregnant. We can do blood work, but that didn't show anything.
Sure.
So we were like, okay, well, what do we do? And they're like, well, take these seizure medications and check back in with Stanford, see what they say, and kind of go from there. And I was like, okay, well, I'll do that, you know, but I just.
And did the seizure medication work?
It stopped it at that time, but from that point on, they had me on like lorazepam every 4 hours, and I'm pregnant, so it's kind of, you know, it's like pick my poison at that point, and it was rough.
So are you back to working in between all this?
Was I working at that time? I think I was working. I was actually working for my good friend under the table. I was not back at Ash because I was still on my medical leave.
Okay.
But I was working for my friend under the table at her thrift store, just organizing, sorting stuff. And
Gotcha.
I was going crazy at home.
Just to do something.
I was on steroids. I was like, I need to move.
Yeah.
I was like, I got to get going.
That's right. That's right.
And so, so after that seizure, we were like, okay, I told Stanford, we're like, well, they told me we got to wait till you're at least in your second trimester again.
Okay.
So I was like, okay. So, we waited, and I started having more seizures. My vision started getting bad again. My arms started getting weak again. I was like, okay, I don't think this is what they're thinking it is, you know? And so they sent me up there, and we went in. I did another MRI, and they said it got worse, that my brain, it was actually, they weren't quite sure. They did a scan over my body. They didn't see anything else in my body. My labs came back.
Okay.
They did a bone marrow biopsy. That came back fine. They did another lumbar puncture. That came back fine. So they're looking at my brain, and they're like, we don't know. They sent it to a few other hospitals, somewhere in San Diego, one in Texas, just trying to get other doctors' opinions, because they were like, we don't know what this is.
And this is Stanford
This
telling
is
you
Stanford.
Yes, this is
yeah.
Yeah.
And so we were like, okay, well, what do we do from here, you know? And so they're like, okay, well, we want you to come back in like a week. We're going to have to recheck you again. So I went back, and at this point, they're like, we see a tumor. There's a tumor, and it's in your motor cortex. It's inoperable. There's no way we can operate on it. We don't know. It might be one type of cancer. It might be another type of cancer. It could maybe be benign. We just don't know. And so we're like, okay, well, what do we do, you know? And they're like, we're going to have to send you in for a brain biopsy. So I was like, okay, being pregnant, and we're trying to figure out the safest route to do this.
Sure.
And so we went in. About a week later, they did another check, and they said that it had grown 3 times its size within the 3 weeks that I had, the first time that they spotted the tumor. By the time I went back in to get the biopsy, it had grown 3 times its size in that time.
Yikes.
So, we went in and we did the brain biopsy, and I remember just coming out of anesthesia and the doctor telling me, yeah, you have CNS lymphoma, and it's going to be really, like, we're going to start treatment immediately if, you know, it's aggressive. It's very, very aggressive.
So I'm going to interrupt you right there. So he said you had CNS lymphoma.
Yes.
But yet there were no clues in your spinal taps.
Nope. Nowhere else, primarily in my brain.
So it's all isolated to your brain.
Yeah, and he was telling me that it's very rare. In people who do normally get it, it's someone who's immune compromised. So someone who's had like HIV, or someone who's had a transplant, an organ transplant. It was more prevalent in men than women. The youngest case was like 26, 25. So I was one of the youngest cases, and I was a woman. And I was healthy, so they're like...
So they're not even looking for this. Because
yeah,
you don't fit
I don't fit the
mold.
criteria. Yeah. So they were like, no, like, we don't, you know, we don't know how you got this.
Sure.
And so we just were like, okay, so we figured out, well, I'm going to have to start treatment in 3 days. I was just concerned about the baby. Am I going to have to... like, what are we going to have to do? Can I keep the baby? Is the chemo, like, is it going to be okay? Like, what do we do? And they're like, the likelihood of you living, you'll be dead in 3 weeks. And so I was like, okay. And they're like, your baby won't make it. Like, it's either you choose this or we start the chemo. Like, that's pretty much the only options you have at this point. And I remember the surgeon coming in, and he had just lost a baby too. And he was kind of crying and just like kind of giving me a hug and was like, you know, I'm going to do this. I'm going to help you no matter what. And I was like, okay. And
heart-wrenching.
Yeah.
Heart-wrenching.
Yeah.
Because those are not choices.
No.
That is something that's necessary for...
if I want to live. Yeah. And so we're like, okay. The next day I was induced. I was already almost halfway through my pregnancy at that point. So I know I kept saying, I'm like, can we just wait 4 weeks? And they're like, no, you won't have time. So I was like, okay. So we did the surgery. And then that next day they put in a PICC line and we started chemotherapy. I did the first round up there and I was like, okay, I'm feeling a little bit better. And And they're like, okay, yeah, the chemo, it works on about 70% of people when they do the chemo. So in my mind, I'm thinking, oh, great, like 70, there's a good chance 70%
Sure.
of this, I'm gonna make it, you know? And they're like, okay, well, you're gonna finish treatment down at French Hospital, like closer to home. So they sent me back here. And once I got back here, I went and spoke with my new oncologist. And he was like, I need you to come into the office because I don't know if they actually went over something with you. And I was like, okay. And I went in and he was like, the chemo works on 70% of the people, but the chances of survival is only 30%. And he basically said, I have three months without treatment and 5 years altogether. Like he was basically getting ready to put me on hospice. And he was just like, and I had only had one treatment. So the entire time I'm going through treatment, I'm thinking, I'm not going to make it. You know, I was like, what was the point of doing this and having the baby removed and having to, you know, so I'm like super down. And I was just like the whole time, just, I'm not going to make it.
And you're 25 years old.
And this is during COVID.
No,
No,
right
no,
before
this is
COVID.
before.
Oh, this is right before COVID.
Yeah, this is in 2018.
So just to recap at this point. So you started school.
Graduated from school.
Your sister, you lost your sister in the meantime. You start having serious medical issues. You find out you're pregnant.
Yes.
You lose a baby. You're diagnosed with cancer and are basically giving months to live.
Yeah, terminal is what they've had on my paperwork.
Terminal.
This
is what they said. And we're talking Stanford and locally.
Yes. And so I was actually trying to look up the stats on it now just to see if anything's changed. And I was like, I still can't do it. I still can't look at it. I'm like, I can't.
No.
Don't Google
even.
it.
No, don't do
bother.
it. Don't ever do it.
We tell everybody don't
do that.
Google
Yeah.
because
No.
Google's a great resource, but it tends to rob people of their hope.
Yes,
yeah,
and it's just
absolutely.
stats. It's not, everyone's different.
Everybody's different.
Everyone's
different. Look at
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
That's
and
the craziest thing.
And I was like, if I would have known that while I was going through treatment, it would have saved me a lot of heartache. But yeah, so at that point, he had told me, you know, I'm not going to live. So I'm here talking with Chapel of the Roses, trying to figure out my own funeral. And I'm just like, this is horrible. Like, I hate this, you know? And so I kept doing the treatment. After the third round of chemo, I was feeling really good. I was like, I feel better than I did before I was diagnosed. I have way more energy. I'm out here sanding dressers and repainting them. Like, I had so much energy. I was deep cleaning my house. I was like, I feel great. I don't know what they're talking about. Like, this is, you know, and I'm like, okay. And at the time I was kind of mad at my doctor for telling me that, because I was like, you don't know me. Like, you don't know what's going to happen, you know? And then me and him started, like, we actually became friends. And I remember it was Christmas Eve. He had called me, and I had finished my treatment. Well, I had one more treatment after that, but it was different. And he called me on Christmas Eve, and he was in Colorado with his family. And he's like, I just got your MRI back, and there's nothing. You have no tumor. It's completely gone. Like, normally it doesn't disappear. Like, it'll still be a remnants of something. And he was like, there's nothing there in your brain. He's like, you're in complete remission. And I was like, you know, and he started crying, and I started crying. I screamed. I couldn't even, I was like, are you kidding me? Like, are you sure? Like, I was in disbelief. And I was like, oh my gosh.
Same guy that said
that I wouldn't. Yeah. And then.
And this is Christmas.
This was Christmas Eve. And he called me crying with his family just because he was so.
What a Christmas gift.
Yeah. I was
right?
like,
You're
oh
like,
I still have the recording of his voicemail on my phone of him telling me.
Don't lose that.
Yeah.
Whoa.
And I was like, oh my. And so. After that, I was like, you know, but then I started questioning myself. I'm like, well, if I'm going to live, like, am I going to ever be able to have children again? Like, what's,
right?
You know? And so I started looking into that. I started looking into, well, okay, what were the chances of me being able to have a baby again?
Right.
Like,
What's life after
what's
cancer
life?
now?
Yeah.
Yes,
And if
exactly.
I'm, you know, I'm like, I'm going to make it. Like, you know,
Absolutely.
that's not what they said, but I am. I'm
exactly.
going to make it.
And what was your last treatment then? Your last treatment was 2018?
January of 2019. I actually got out on my birthday on January 23rd. I was released from UCLA. They had to put me in ICU. They had to give me 2 extreme chemotherapies that basically wiped me out. I mean, it was like etoposide and cytarabine. I'm like, it just sounds
Those
bad.
are both extremely nasty.
Yeah, very nasty. And
oh wow.
I was neutropenic for a while. I had to get some blood transfusions after that. And
Okay.
so I was there for about 3 weeks getting this treatment. And then I was released on my birthday. And this is like once after I knew I was in the clear, I was starting to talk to, my fertility specialist. I'm like, okay, can I have a baby? Like, can we check my eggs? And they're like, it's not gonna lie, it's gonna be slim. You didn't have time to preserve eggs. It takes a while to do that.
Right.
We gave you some medication while you were going through treatment to help preserve eggs, but we honestly don't know. Like, the term she used was nuke me. She said, we had to nuke you to keep you alive and bring you back. She was like, we had to kill you and bring you back to life with that last treatment. And I was like, well, it definitely felt that way. So I was like, okay. And I was like, wow, okay. And so we're like thinking, I'm never going to be able to have kids after this.
Absolutely.
And then after my older sister passed, my younger sister and I, we became extremely close. I mean, we were already close, but we became extremely close. And a few months had gone by at this point, and I was just starting to talk with her about like, well, what do I do? Like, I'm super bummed. I always wanted to have kids. And she was like, I'll carry for you. She was like, no matter what, like, I will do this. Like, I will be there for you. Like, I'll carry your children if that's what you want. And I was like, okay, like, this is great, and
At least you had an option.
Right.
yeah, I had an option.
Yeah.
And
So you're middle child then.
I'm the third.
You're
Third
the
of
third.
four.
Third of
You're
four.
third.
Third of four.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
so
So this is the baby sister we're talking
baby
to
sister, my baby sister Robbie.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was talking with her, and she's like, "Yeah, I'll carry. Just let me know when you're ready, and we'll start planning this and working." And then I was like, "Well, and it's still like, even if it's not my eggs, at least she was willing to donate her eggs. I'm like,
And
it'll
it's
still
family.
be blood. Yeah, it'll still be my family." And I was like, "Okay, this is And then I remember I went out. It was about that night or the next night. I went out and I had my first cocktail since everything. And I was just so excited.
Yeah.
Sure.
You're like, yes, I can celebrate.
Yeah. I was like, this is great. Like, that first drink, I was like, wow, like, haven't had a drink in so long,
Sure.
And then that night I had received a call, and it was my sister's boyfriend, Robbie's boyfriend. And he was saying, hey, like, have you seen her? Like, she never came home.
Oh.
And I was like, well, what are you talking about?
And is she local?
She lived in California Valley.
Okay. So fairly local.
Fairly local.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he was like, she never came home. And I was like, well, what do you mean? Like, where is she? And he was like, I don't know. I was hoping to see if she was with you. And I was like, no. And so I got off the phone and I started calling everywhere, just trying to figure out where she could be. And he was like, okay, I'm going to go and I'm going to go look for her. And I said, okay. And about 10 minutes later, he called me and he was like, she's been in an accident. And she rolled her car, and I don't think she's not going to make it. And I was like, are you sure? And I called my dad, who lives there, and he rushed over there too. And it's an hour away. And my dad gets there and he's like, she's gone. Like, there's nothing that they could do. She's already been gone.
Wow.
Yeah. And that dropped me. That really just, I'm like, just,
yeah,
it was rough.
Rock bottom.
So
Rock bottom.
in
Rock
less
bottom.
than 2 years,
you
you lost your oldest sister
Mm.
from a medical condition that you didn't get to say goodbye to.
Nope.
You fought a cancer that you shouldn't have survived. You lost a baby in order to survive. And then you lost your baby sister, who was going to be your surrogate.
Yeah.
And really, you didn't get to say goodbye to her either.
Nope. Not at all.
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't know. That is so.
And
so
you're still here.
I'm still here.
You've chosen to survive and to go on.
function. Step one foot right in front of the
Yes.
other, and
You're taking one day at a time.
And I've met you in 2019. I want to say
I was probably still bald or very curly head at
very
that time.
like very tight curls at the and your hair was just starting to come in.
Yeah.
Do you remember when you first heard about 17 Strong?
When you guys first reached out to me, I remember my doctor telling me, hey, there's this organization. I want to talk to them about you. And I was like, okay, but he never really said your guys' name. And so when you reached out to me, I was just like, is this a scam? Is this, I'm all, is this
We
my
get that
favorite.
all the
I
time.
know. I'm like, who? I was like, why would they want to? I'm like, what is going on
What's
here?
going
Well, in this
on?
day and age,
Yeah,
yeah,
I get
it sounds too good to be
yeah,
true.
it
Yeah,
definitely
yeah.
sounds. And
I'm
it's-
not going to fix your power bill or
Yeah.
your phone bill or,
So, yeah, so-
ask you for money.
Exactly. So I was like, what? And so I remember going back to my doctor and being like, hey, what was the name of that organization you were talking about? And he mentioned your guys' name. And I was like, it's real. Like, it's a real thing. Like, this is great. Like, oh my God. And I was just so, like, Tony and I were both like, oh my gosh, like, this is amazing.
Right.
And so, yeah, I remember that's the first time I had heard about you guys. And I was like, wow. And then I started talking to after we heard your guys' last name, I was telling his family about you guys, and his younger brother's like, oh yeah, I think I played baseball with their son. And he was like, it was on like traveling
travel
ball.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so he was like, yeah, I remember that name. And then I showed him and he's like, yeah, his younger
Oh,
brother had
wow.
played. And I was like, what? A
What?
small
world.
small world.
Such a
Yeah.
small community, such a small town. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So I'm trying to remember how it all played out, because I want to say that we kind of tried to postpone it a little bit because you wanted to do something. Do you remember how it played out? And then COVID
hit. Yes.
Yes.
So I think originally we were thinking about going to Paris for our trip, and then COVID had hit. And so we were like, okay. And then because we just went on our trip last year.
You just went. So what was that? That was
22.
2022. So
Yeah.
we're talking like years, which normally we do in one year.
Yeah.
And it was so many things. But I remember just really, because you wanted to do certain things. And I was
Yeah.
like, we got to get her to do this certain thing. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So once everything started opening back up again, we're like, okay, well, where can we go? Because we didn't know
Right.
what was
and what does
gonna
that
be
look
open.
like when you get there?
Yeah,
Of course you're thinking of those things too.
Yeah, and then we were starting to think, well, maybe Ireland. Then they were like, no, there's a 2-week quarantine. And so we're like, okay, where else can we go? And then me and him both were like, Santorini, like, let's go to Greece. Like, and they were open. So we're like, let's do this. Like, this is gonna be great, And then we were like, well, if we're there, because Tony's best friend lived in Barcelona in Spain. So I was like, well, while we're there, like after that trip, like could we like go on our own and go and see him in Spain? And you guys were like, yeah, like we just have to get you home.
Isn't Dawn
So I was like,
awesome?
yes.
She's amazing. And I always say it's not limited to, because yes, we pay for a week, but you got to go for a whole nother week.
Yeah, so we went for a whole nother week, and Tony's brother met us over there. And then
I didn't know that.
Yeah, his brother met us over there. And then we hopped over to Italy for 3 days, and then we hopped back to Barcelona, and then we went home. But it was amazing because we were able to like fit all of that in.
And when are you going to be there? Again, that's what we say. Like, if you're going to be there and you have, and you might as well make it 2 weeks and see family or do what you got to do. That is amazing.
Yeah.
We have quite a few people that do that.
Yeah.
That extend the trip on their own. And then we just
I know I felt so
get
bad
them
for
home.
Dawn because I was like, Dawn, what about this?
No.
I was in the
She's
loop
an
on
angel
that.
by herself,
She's telling you,
She's
she is an
amazing.
angel, and she's like, no, they're staying a week longer. I'm like, yeah, all right. And I loved it because I got to kind of walk through it with you guys when you guys bought your first house, and then you bought a business, and it's nifty thrifty, and I know that so that has been really fun. And now you also have another business that you guys are kind of doing.
Yeah. So so after all of that, I was like, I don't want to go back to work at Ash. Like, I want to. I need to do something a little bit easier on my body for right now, just less stressful. Sure. And the friend that I was working under the table for at the thrift store, she offered us if we wanted to buy the business from her. And we're like, sure. Like, I love doing this. I mean, it's fun. It's not like work to me. It's enjoyable.
Sure.
So I was like, yeah, like I'll do it. We'll buy it from you. And so we bought it from her. And then while we were there, I was like, well, I'm going to need to find inventory. So I started reaching out to everyone on Craigslist, Facebook, everywhere, saying, hey, at the end of your guys' yard sales, I'll come pick up whatever's left over. And finally I met a gal who does estate sales, and she was just like, hey, you know what? If you want to partner with us, you can pick up everything after the end of all of our estate sales and it could be yours. And I was like, okay, deal. And then
that is awesome.
And then she ended up buying a house in Tennessee, and she was like, hey, we're moving. We're going to sell the business. Do you guys want to buy it? And we're like, sure. Like, we'll buy your business too.
So you have like all these businesses.
Yeah.
And it just really really works together. It really does work together, which is amazing. And that's amazing to me. I just love how things work out.
So I want to spin it back around and talk a little bit about your mindset.
Yeah.
I mean, we've all been through tragedy. We're all part of a tree. That tree has very deep roots, but every branch is different. We're on a different branch than you are, and there's other people with cancer journeys that are on different branches as well.
Sure.
But what was your mindset going back with all these losses, and then you're diagnosed with cancer, and then losing the baby and everything? What's going through your mind?
At first, I would say it was survivor's guilt. I was feeling extremely guilty. Like, why am I the one that gets to live after I've lost all of them? Like, why are they gone? And why am I still here? And then I started thinking, everything, it happened for a reason. I'm here for a reason. There's a purpose for me being here still. And whatever that might be, I'll figure it out probably down the road. Or maybe I'll never figure it out, but maybe I will, after 100%. I'm gone, and I'll know, I was here for a reason.
Oh,
and
I believe that.
And I was like, my purpose right now is to live for them.
Yeah.
I want to do everything I could that they couldn't do.
Sure.
I love to travel. My sister loved to travel. She loved the countryside. So everywhere I go, I try to pick up a heart-shaped rock and take it to her memorial.
That's awesome.
And my older sister, she was more like a mother to me. So, so seeing them, it was just kind of like, my mindset, I was sad, but at the same time, like, okay, I've got to find a reason to make this positive, or else I'm going to be stuck living in that depressed mindset, and that's not living.
And it's a choice that you make that I can't wallow in that. I know that I wouldn't want you to.
Yeah.
So how do I move forward? And you found just to be able to travel and to make it.
Exactly. And I'm like, I know they're with me. So it's like, I've got to, just keep living and, just show them or prove to them, like, it was worth me staying.
Absolutely.
And, even like I still get that survivor's guilt here and there, but it's it's
life after cancer too is not easy.
Yeah. Oh, no.
You have these things that you have to do after cancer.
And,
and they're hard. They're not easy. Life is it makes it a little harder, but you have priority of life now. When you put it in perspective, and I think that's I've seen it. I've seen you do these things, so it's amazing to to witness and to see you and Tony together and how that relationship has grown, because there's the percentage of people even staying together with all that stuff that's gone on is just, it's way over 50%, I know. And it's beautiful to see as an outsider. And I know it's hard to go through it, but wouldn't you say, if you were to give advice to somebody, what would you tell them?
I would say, don't believe the statistics. It's not.
Don't Google.
Don't Google. And whatever you can find hope in, grab onto it, because that is going to be the most important thing to get you through any of it.
Absolutely.
I mean, even if you have all this negativity in your life, just remember, you can always find something to make it better.
That's right.
And
is there anyone that, when all this was going on, is there any one thing that helped you through it? This is a two-part question. So what helped you through it? And then maybe what is an example of what not to say to someone going through what you went through?
We could do a whole podcast on that, can't we? Can't we, Bonnie? People say weird things.
Yeah. So good question. Let me think for a second. I would probably say, so the second part of the question, like what not to say to someone, is just trying to think. It's kind of,
I know. People say some crazy things.
And I know some people are different on this
than
I am.
Grieves differently too.
So like I know with my doctor telling me like, oh, you only have 30% chance. I know some people like having that information given to them. Yeah. I did not. I was just like, I did not want to know it.
I don't want to know
some people prefer it to be upfront. The whole, oh, you might have a nice bald head. We'll have to wait and see. Once you start losing your hair, you might have a great shape head. Things like that, where I was like, For me,
Really?
I didn't mind losing my hair. Honestly, it was kind of relieving. I always wanted to know what my head looked like, anyways. And I was like,
That's
it was,
funny.
I could go to a bonfire. I didn't have smelly hair the next day. I didn't have
Right.
much
Exactly.
maintenance. It was
Sure.
And then what was the first part of that question?
Something that helped you through
Oh,
it.
helped me
Something
through it.
you looked forward to, maybe, or there was a word of encouragement from someone or something that helped get you through it.
Yeah. So, I would definitely say thinking that I wasn't going to make it, and then trying to prove them wrong, trying to say I'm going to make it. I think that really helped me because I've never liked being given doubt ever in my life.
Yeah. Sure.
That I feel like helped. After I heard about you guys, that definitely helped bring that up a lot.
It gives you a little bit of light, a little bit of hope
it
again.
does, yeah.
And you can dream.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And because I think I heard about you guys farther towards the end of my treatment than towards the beginning. So the first half, trying to just get through it, I did have my younger sister at that time, and she was there helping me a lot. I had friends and family visiting constantly, and I don't like being alone.
Sure.
Having
And the support system is super awesome to have and crucial, I feel like.
And actually going through schooling, I actually had a lot of the nurses ended up being, like, my friends from school ended up being my nurses at the hospital.
Really?
So
That's
that was
amazing.
it was a familiar face. I could go in and they still work there, and that was always nice. And I remember one time coming in and my doctor looking at me, and I'm sitting at the nurse's station, like going through my own chart, and he was like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "Sorry, they're
I'm just
asking
checking it
questions."
out.
And
That's
so,
crazy.
but no, my doctor and I, we became, like I said, we became good friends. We started doing, trying to do woodworking projects and stuff like that for him. And we still keep in touch here and there. He doesn't live here anymore, but it's still kind of nice.
That is neat. That's really neat.
But
yeah.
So I think that kind of just having those people around me to help me get through it definitely helped motivate me to just keep pushing through, and knowing that I wanted to live for this baby that I had just lost, and my sister at the time. I'm like, I just, I want to live for them. I want to show that this didn't happen just because, like, there was a reason for it, that I had to do what I had to do. And because that ate me up for a while, just, being told, like, you have to terminate your baby or you're going to die. And that was rough.
And
Just
you
trying
didn't do
to-
like any like counseling, or that's what blows my mind. Like there is just so many support groups and and therapists and all these things, and you just had such an amazing outlook and knowing that I'm gonna push through. And I'm not saying that that's for everybody, because everybody deals with things differently. But it's just amazing to me to look at you and just go, oh my gosh, this is such a crazy story. But the whole victory behind it was beautiful, and I love it. So
And I think it all comes back to, we hear it time and time again, it's the support system behind you.
and the mindset. I feel like the mindset, and that's what she said basically, is the mindset of going, yeah, I'm going to prove you wrong. Yeah, because I'm going to do that. Like, and when you have that motivation, you can, I feel like I always say mindset's most of it. It's over half of it's 90%
But
of
it goes back to attitude is everything.
Attitude is everything.
You know?
Absolutely. You can go wallow in that and just,
And you had every reason to wallow.
every reason to wallow.
I mean,
Absolutely. That can destroy people. I mean, just one of those events could destroy people for a lifetime, and not wanting to
Move forward.
Yeah, but to be a productive person in society, like seriously, like, and you bought a house and bought a beautiful business, and are really doing amazing. And can we go there? Are we going there?
No, we're not going there
Oh,
yet.
we're not going there. Okay.
Are you ready to go there?
I am so well. What else?
So, well, no, I think your story.
Oh, it blows my mind every time.
I've heard it so many times. I've listened to you speak. You're so eloquent when you do it.
I love it.
And I mean, it's all I can do not to cry.
I know.
Because
my heart,
because of what you've been
tears it
through.
apart.
And I'm just so thankful for you, for standing up and marching forward. Because
Absolutely.
so many people would quit after one of those things happened, kind of like what Holly said. and you are amazing.
Amazing.
Your story is amazing.
Yeah.
I think it should be a book.
Oh, I do. Have you ever thought of that, by the way?
I've had so many people ask me, and I'm like, I don't know where to start.
Yeah.
I wouldn't-
Ghostwriter.
Yeah.
That's what we need. We need a ghostwriter for Bonnie. Anybody out there? This is the story you need.
Because it's just amazing. I think you could touch so many people with your courage, with your hope, you know, and you know, all your cards were bad cards. I mean, they you were throwing them back into the deck, and you said, nope. Give me some more cards. Come on.
And she's glowing. Do you notice?
She's glowing.
She's glowing. And do you want to? Why don't you tell everybody why she's glowing right now?
No, I think Bonnie needs to tell us why she's glowing.
Okay, Bonnie, tell us the good news.
So, as of January, I had found out that I am actually currently expecting. So I am 14 weeks along with a healthy baby. We don't quite know what we're having yet, any day
Doesn't
now,
matter.
but healthy baby, and with everything stacked against us, it still happened. So
I screamed when I found
I
out.
know.
Steve
I
thought
came
there was
running
a
in
problem.
because I thought there was something wrong.
I was
And
like so excited.
You know, we both cried.
Yeah.
We both cried. And I'm sure you have shed many a tear because it is so joyful because it's
it's happy.
it's happy. It's the icing on the cake. It's your
Exactly.
reward.
It is.
And you know, because we know so many people that life after cancer, no, they've lost that.
They did.
They had to adopt or whatever it was, and
you just don't know.
Right.
You don't
But
know what's going to happen.
Exactly.
you did it.
Yeah,
You did it.
you
It's
did
it's
it.
amazing.
Yay.
It's such a miracle.
It is a
We're
miracle.
so happy for you to be able to expand your family, and
Yeah.
you know, I hope there's more behind this one, which I'm sure you do
Absolutely.
too.
Yes, absolutely.
And how do you feel?
now that I'm in the second trimester, I feel a whole lot better. That first one was a doozy.
Yeah.
But I think like the most amazing thing to me is that my due date is on my younger sister's birthday. And to me, I'm just like,
And this was
me
the
every
surrogate.
chill-
this was the surrogate that I was going to have my due date's on her birthday. And I'm like, the odds of this happening, I'm like, no.
Right.
She had to have something to do with this.
Absolutely.
And I'm just so grateful.
She's
and
orchestrating
thankful.
something
Yeah.
from above. And can you tell us what the due date is?
October 4th.
Oh my
October
gosh,
4th.
October babies.
10-4.
10-4. 10-4. You hear me?
So,
We like October birthdays.
We
anyway,
do. Ryan has
right?
an October birthday, and oh my gosh, they're just and it doesn't matter what this is, a baby, you know, boy or girl, because if it's a healthy baby, that's all that matters. And,
exactly.
yeah.
And
We,
And what
we
a
are
blessing.
so happy for you.
Yes,
So
I am
happy.
beyond happy for her. I think I did call her, and I just I didn't even know what to say. I was just like, I am so like beside
like,
myself.
what?
I'm
I
like,
know.
what is going on? As soon as it got posted, and I am just I just feel like we can inspire people, you know, that this is beautiful, and to get it out there to people that, you know, you've been through, you're against all the odds, and that this is a beautiful thing and it's worth celebrating. And I could not wait. And that, I mean, I couldn't stop thinking about you, couldn't stop thinking about how awesome this is. And I'm like, we need to do a podcast, and are you available this week?
Yes.
And she's
Yeah.
like, okay, I'll make myself available. And that's what I love about you too, is because you really did carve out the time, and that means a lot to me, that you thought that it's important to tell people about it. And I'm
And I mean, I appreciate you guys so much for everything that you do, not just for just me, but everyone around me. It's like you give so much hope to and inspire so many people that it's like a lot of people, that's where their life ended. You know, that's where they have a hard time moving on. And after going through the trip and experiencing life again, it's like you can live again. And
Yes.
I feel like that's what it's all about, is just showing life does go on.
That's right.
And you know, and that's why I wanted to speak with you guys, because I was like, I want to prove like life can go on. You can live happily. And I mean, I'm sure you'll always have that in the back of your mind.
Right.
I know I still do, but I don't let it get to me. I don't let it
ruin your
ruin
day,
my life.
ruin your
Yeah.
life. And
That's right.
and it's always at the forefront. It's more in the back burner. And,
Exactly.
And
It did take a long time to get used to that.
absolutely.
Sure.
I mean, I'm almost 5 years out now, and it's still like some days I'm like, oh my gosh, but
That's
then I just
5 years. That
5
makes me
years.
so like, whoa.
August,
5
yeah.
years. August is 5 years.
A clean bill of health,
clean bill
Clean
of
bill
health,
of
a
health.
baby on the way.
A healthy
roof over
baby.
my head.
Yeah, a roof over your head, and a new business that you're starting.
Yeah.
Yes,
Wow.
I know.
all within 5 years.
All
Yeah.
within 5 years.
Yeah.
And so it's just
And a big shout out to Tony. We
Yeah.
love Tony. So I'm just so beyond excited. Can't wait to meet this baby. And yeah, I guess it doesn't end here. You know what I
No.
mean?
Yeah.
Like it doesn't, and that's
No.
what's so
We'll
fun.
have to have
is
part
that-
2, and you come
Yeah.
back with the
With
baby, and
baby,
you'll be
and-
pregnant with number 2. And
Yeah, I know, right? I know, right? So I'm really, really stoked about this, and I just feel like the journey was so rough, but there is something to be celebrated today.
exactly.
And-
I mean, I had to do what I had to do for the first baby, and
Yeah.
I'm still alive, and I'm going to be able to be a mother to
right.
another baby, and
That's right.
that's what I'm so excited and happy about.
Excited about.
This
Like,
baby
in
is
your
gonna
life
be
is
so loved.
so loved,
Yes,
so loved. That's
exactly.
and then your priority is right. You know, because I feel like sometimes Steve and I had kids very young, and you know, and I remember thinking, oh, I can't wait till they do this. Oh, I can't wait till they do this. I can't wait till, and now I'm like, wait a minute, if I love every stage. I don't care if you don't do anything, you know,
Yeah.
and I don't care that you're waking up at 3 a.m. Like, you know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like, it's just a beautiful thing. The older that you are and the more that you can just press in and just be in the moment
Yeah.
and intentional about being a mom. And those are the cool things is that, you know, I mean, your life is in perspective and in the right. You know, do you see what I'm saying?
Yep.
I feel like I'm
Yep.
mumbling, but
Oh, no.
I just think it's
No.
a beautiful thing.
You take it one day at
Yeah.
a time, and
Yeah.
that's all
Enjoy
you can do.
every
yes.
minute
Yep.
I know.
because, and I know you will, but
Oh, yeah.
every
Yep.
minute.
Life is precious, and you understand
Yes.
that more than a lot of people do.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
So,
Yeah.
Bonnie, it's been such a pleasure.
Such a
Thank
pleasure.
We
you.
are so excited, and oh wow!
And I just wanted to like break down like what Victory Trip meant for me.
Please.
Oh yeah,
So I was thinking about this for the last couple of years, and I was like, I have to break this down into 2 words: victory and trip. So I was thinking with victory, it means like you overcame, you won, you succeeded. That is now the past, and trip is a journey. So starting of your new journey. And so for me, that's what it was. It was the end of the past and the beginning of the future. And
it's a new
that's
beginning.
beautiful.
yeah, and
It's
so
a new beginning.
That is a new
so
beginning.
That's why I was like, okay, this is that's what I thought was just so amazing about all of this. Just
So
yeah.
cool.
Thank you.
That is so
Thank
cool.
you.
Yeah.
That's what we're so excited that Ryan had the forethought to put this out there, because
Yeah.
he knew that anybody that beat this deserves something to look forward to, because they
Exactly.
needed a fresh start
Yeah, and that's
after a difficult battle.
and that's exactly what it meant for me. And I know
Fresh start.
Yep, same with a lot of other people that I've got to meet. And
Yes. Yeah.
And your battle was extremely difficult.
Yes. And I mean, I hope that you know that we're always here for you, and that you will spread the word about 17 Strong, because
course.
yeah, we love to add more people into our family, and it's yucky how we get to know you, but the end is this. These are my favorite phone calls.
Yeah.
Is to
Yep.
hear this wonderful thing. I'm getting married, or I'm having a baby, or you know, these are just awesome. I got a clean bill of health. Like, these are the most awesome things to hear. So I am just so excited.
So happy for
Yeah.
you both.
All right.
thank you.
You are a prime example of why we do what we do.
Yep.
And you're living proof
That's it.
that victories don't come by accident.
Exactly. I agree. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mic drop.
You've been listening to 17 Strong. Victories don't come by accident. To be part of the show, make a donation, or request more information, go to 17strong.org. That's SEVENTEEN strong.org.